The tape found in James Mason's attic was never meant to be heard. When James Mason died in 1984, nobody expected what they would find in his Beverly Hills house. Hidden behind fake walls were movie reels worth millions of dollars. But that wasn't the biggest shock. 10 years later, a cassette tape with a label saying "Do Not Play" showed up from the same house. The 90-minute recording had Mason's honest thoughts about Hollywood's darkest secrets. Movie studio bosses tried to buy it. Collectors offered huge amounts of money, but what Mason said about his famous co-stars and the movie industry's hidden crimes was so shocking, it almost disappeared forever. James Mason was born on May 15, 1909 in Huddersfield, West Yorkshire. His family worked in the cloth business with his father, running a successful wool company that sold fancy fabric all across Europe. His mother came from a classy Lancaster family and hoped James would have a respectable future in something like building design. Still, she saw his talent for performing early on. She quietly arranged speech lessons to make his Yorkshire accent sound softer. That early mix of privilege, high expectations, and secret support planted the seed for a life that would forever be split between following the rules and breaking free of them. At Marlborough College, one of England's best schools, James got a scholarship when he was just 14. But life there wasn't easy. He struggled with a bad stutter that left him feeling alone. Everything changed when his drama teacher asked him to join the school's small theater group. The training helped him get over his stutter, and the experience of acting lit a fire inside him. He later wrote about the joy he felt saying Shakespeare's lines, describing it as addictive. The stage didn't just give him confidence, it gave him a purpose. When he went on to Cambridge in 1927, it was supposed to be the start of a safe career in building design, the path his parents wanted. But while going to classes, he was secretly acting in play after play with the Marlowe Society, appearing in everything from Greek tragedies to modern verse drama. In 1930, his father offered him a job in the family business that would have guaranteed a wealthy future. James said no. Instead, he joined a theater company in London, a move that his father called crazy. The decision caused a big fight in the family. But for James, it was the moment he chose the stage over everything else. His first years as an actor were tough. He worked with small traveling companies, sometimes performing in half-empty small town halls. Money was so tight, he once sold his pocket watch just to eat. He even slept backstage on cold marble floors. Everything changed when playwright J.B. Priestley noticed him during an audition and offered him a role in London's West End. Almost overnight, he went from a struggling actor to a big success, praised for how deep his performances were. It was the first of many times James would bounce back from the edge with pure determination. Not long after, his personal life got nearly as much attention as his career. He fell for Pamela Kino, a married woman he had met on a movie set. Their relationship created a scandal that played out both privately and publicly. For a time, he even lived with Pamela and her husband under the same roof, a situation that shocked everyone who learned about it. When her husband finally filed for divorce, James and Pamela rushed to get married in Nevada, but the timing caused a storm of rumors about bigamy. The secrecy around their marriage damaged his reputation. Yet, their bond stayed strong despite the backlash. On movie sets, his passion sometimes pushed him to dangerous limits. During the filming of I Met a Murderer, he insisted on doing his own stunts. A cart accident sent him tumbling off a cliff, leaving him badly hurt. He refused proper medical care and kept filming the very same day, hiding his broken wrist under a coat. The injury never fully healed, and he carried the physical reminder throughout his career. When war broke out, James made a choice that split public opinion. He refused combat duty, signing up as a conscientious objector. Newspapers called him a coward, and some movie studios refused to hire him. But instead of hiding, he drove ambulances during the Blitz, risking his life to pull survivors from burning rubble night after night. Though more dangerous than many combat roles, his service did little to change his critics' minds. Still, those months of non-stop work showed a different kind of courage, one that never fit neatly into public expectations. In 1943, everything changed with The Man in Gray. James convinced the director to let him play the bad guy instead of the hero, and the role turned him into a star. His performance was so intense that audiences packed movie theaters just to see him. Cheering when his character finally met his fate, the film broke box office records and made James Mason one of the most talked-about actors in Britain. James Mason's rise to fame with The Seventh Veil in 1945 was more than just a breakthrough performance. It was a turning point for British movies. The film had been made on a tight budget of less than $100,000. Yet, it shocked the industry by earning over $253,000 in the UK alone and more than $2 million worldwide by 1948. What made the story even more amazing was Mason's profit-sharing deal. He reportedly got $20,000, a sum so large for the time that it would be worth nearly $800,000 today. The success of the film was incredible. It drew almost 18 million ticket sales, and in some parts of the UK, even outsold Gone with the Wind. Audiences were fascinated by its dark tale of a controlling music teacher and his piano student. Mason's intense and complex character struck such a chord that it helped shape a new kind of leading man on screen, one who was both magnetic and morally uncertain. Behind the camera, the production had just as much drama. Mason's relationship with co-star Ann Todd became one of the most talked-about rivalries in movie history. Their professional disagreements quickly grew into explosive fights that fed newspaper headlines week after week. Mason shocked industry insiders when he insisted Todd should get equal billing, even though their on-set arguments were notorious. In one heated moment, he reportedly tore up a script in front of the crew. The press called them Cement and Dynamite, a nickname that captured their strange mix of stability and explosiveness. Ironically, the tension made the film even more appealing to audiences who saw echoes of that real-life conflict in the story itself. Todd claimed that she and Mason had an affair during filming, a revelation that only added to the legend. Even with his triumph, Mason faced a painful setback. When the Academy Awards came around in 1947, he was left out of the nominations despite widespread praise from American critics for The Seventh Veil and Odd Man Out because of a technical rule that excluded films released first in Britain. Mason was deemed not eligible. The irony was bitter. The film won an Oscar for Best Original Screenplay, yet its leading man got nothing. Mason carried that wound for decades, calling it a clear sign of bias against foreign actors, though he later earned 3 Oscar nominations. He never forgot the sting of that first rejection at the height of his career. Controversy followed him off-screen as well. In 1947, he left Britain for Hollywood, just as the nation was struggling with post-war poverty. The reason was simple but deeply unpopular. Britain's tax rate was so high that Mason risked losing almost all of his income. On earnings near $100,000, he would have kept only a small part. Newspapers accused him of abandoning his country in its time of need, and the public saw his move as selfish. To make matters worse, it happened just as American studios were pulling films from Britain in a fight over money restrictions. The timing could not have been worse, and Mason's reputation at home never fully recovered. He also had a talent for attracting strange headlines. In 1946, he adopted a lion cub from a struggling circus charity. At first, the sight of the animal roaming his Surrey estate amused neighbors. But the humor quickly faded as the cub grew into a 200-pound predator. Its constant roaring disturbed the peace, and one night it escaped during a thunderstorm, sending neighbors into panic until it was captured hours later with help from London zoo experts. Complaints turned into a full court case. After the lion disrupted a garden party, leaving frightened guests scrambling for safety. Mason was eventually forced to move the animal and pay damages. But the story followed him for years as an example of how fame could sometimes cross into absurdity. Despite the scandals and setbacks, Mason managed to rebuild his career in 1951. He signed a long-term deal with 20th Century Fox after landing the role of General Rommel in The Desert Fox. The contract gave him steady work and helped restore his standing in Hollywood. Just a few years later, he starred opposite Judy Garland in A Star is Born, playing Norman Maine, a fading actor whose tragic decline showed Mason's depth and vulnerability as a performer. The film became a classic, cementing his reputation as one of the most versatile actors of his time. By 1959, Mason was once again in the spotlight with Alfred Hitchcock's North by Northwest, where he played the elegant and threatening Philip Van. His performance proved that he could bring both charm and menace to the screen. giving Hollywood one of its most memorable villains. In 1949, James Mason made a purchase that would change both his life and the history of movies. He bought a sprawling Beverly Hills estate once owned by Buster Keaton, paying just $82,000 for a mansion that had originally cost $300,000. To build in the 1920s, the estate had sat on the market for years, unwanted in an E.